Hello, you're watching Global Mirror. I'm Shreya Upadhyaya. This week has seen some very crucial developments as far as the shift in geopolitical situations is concerned, the storm that US aid has brought in here in India, and 3 years of the Russia-Ukraine war. First up, let's talk about the very important India-China bilateral meeting that took place in South Africa. India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, met with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi on the sidelines of the G20 Foreign Ministers meet in Johannesburg. In their 30-minute-long meeting, the two leaders reviewed the bilateral relationship and focused on further easing of border tensions, resumption of the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, and flight connectivity. The two ministers met, remember, after their November 2024 G20 meeting in Brazil. It comes amid India and China working towards disengagement of troops at the line of actual control. Interestingly, it also comes amid Donald Trump's second presidency and the geopolitical shift, as well as tariff threats that he brings along.
We had this meeting on the sidelines of the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting in Johannesburg. External Affairs Minister and Chinese Foreign Minister His Excellency Wang Yi met on the sidelines of G20. The meeting lasted for about 30 minutes. The two ministers reviewed developments in our bilateral relationship since their last meeting in November. Specifically, the management of peace and tranquility in border areas, Kailash Mansarovar Yatra resumption, trans-border rivers, flight connectivity, and travel facilitation were discussed. There was also an exchange of views on G20 and SCO.
All right, to talk more about this, I'm joined on the broadcast by Mr. Ashok Sajjanhar. He's a former ambassador. Ambassador Sajjanhar, good evening, namaskar. First of all, Ambassador Sajjanhar, what do you make of this important bilateral meeting that has taken place between India and China, considering the fact that the two countries are trying to ease their border tensions as much as possible?
Yeah, thank you very much, Shreya, for having me. You were right. There's an important meeting. I think the real significance of the meeting, in my view, is the fact that the meeting has taken place. Because, the two leaders had met, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi had met on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Kazan in October. And after that, we've seen that there has been one meeting between the foreign ministers. This is the second meeting. We've also had our foreign secretary visiting Beijing, our national security advisor also visiting Beijing. So I think this dialogue is going on, this conversation is going on, basically trying to bring down the level of mistrust, the trust deficit that has been there, and take small steps, baby steps towards a resumption of stable relations, moving towards normalization of relations. So I would say this meeting is significant that it has taken place, and we are talking about some of the most basic, fundamental aspects. The bigger things will come later. I think both sides recognize, particularly India, recognizes that we have to, go slowly, as it is said, make haste slowly. And particularly this becomes, I think, relevant and significant in the context of what you said very correctly right at the beginning, that there is so much of turbulence and so much of flux that is taking place globally as a result of Mr. Trump's, coming to power. Last comment I'll make here is, I think it was known that Mr. Trump is unpredictable, but that he is going to turn the US foreign policy on its head within the first 1 month. I think no one had really expected it. Yeah.
I mean, it's Donald Trump, Ambassador Sajjanhar. We can't, put our finger right there that he's going to be doing this and he's going to be saying this. It is quintessential Donald Trump at display right from 20th of January when he was inaugurated as the US president. But Ambassador Sajjanhar, since you mentioned Donald Trump, I want to understand from you what you make of this unique catalyst bringing together two adversaries, at least since the past few years, India and China getting closer as the Trump second presidency sets in. There is, of course, a heightened tariff threat. And, the economies, the businesses will be impacted by this. And therefore, India and China perhaps making a wise decision of easing out their border tensions and moving towards countering the big enemy or the big elephant in the room, that is Donald Trump.
Okay, let me first comment on, your first comment when you said that this is quintessential Donald Trump. You are right and maybe not fully there because what we saw, what has the world seen of Donald Trump in Trump 1.0? What did we see? Meaning, fine, he was unpredictable, he was transactional, but he was still very unsure of himself. You would recall that, when he came to power when he won the election in 2016, and came to power in 2017, I think that was a shock, not only to the world that he had won the election, but also to himself, because I don't think that he expected to win the election. The Republican Party was not with him fully at that time during those 4 years. So he was very tentative, he was very unsure, he was very uncertain. This time when he has come, and he's unhindered and unhampered. That time he did not know who to appoint as his NSA, as his Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense. He changed 4 Secretary of Defense. He changed 3, 4 NSAs, etc. Not this time. This time he's putting his loyalists in all places. Whether it is Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz, it is Kash Patel, it is Tulsi Gabbard, it is all these people on whom, and he is much more confident. He is much more assertive because this time he has not only won the electoral college votes, he's also won the popular votes. So that is about Mr. Trump. Trump 2.0 is very different from Trump 1.0. So that is the point I wanted to make. Now, the second point that you mentioned, he has been making, all these threats that he's going to impose 60% tariffs on China. That was during his election campaign. But then after he was elected and when he assumed power on the 20th of January, then, instead of 60%, he's imposed only 10%. He's been sending out very mixed signals on China. Not only as far as tariffs are concerned, but also you look at TikTok. He himself had banned TikTok in his first term. And this time, when the Congress and the Supreme Court have said that TikTok should be banned, he's given it a reprieve of about 75 days or so that you try to resolve your issues. He rings up Xi Jinping, invites him to come for his inauguration. He has a conversation with Xi Jinping and says that both of us are trying to decide how to manage the problems of the world. The point I'm making is that although he says, it was during his time that the Quad was revived and Indo-Pacific was revived and China was dubbed as the systemic, the strategic competitor. This time he's been sending mixed signals on China. That having been said, I think he is, trying to resolve his differences with Russia and with Putin. But, coming to India and China, what you mentioned that we are doing the sensible thing of coming together. You see, India has had much warmer and stable relations with the United States, with Mr. Trump, in Trump 1.0 than China. So I think it is to the advantage of China much greater because they have their back to the wall. And we've seen even as far as Mr. Modi's visit to the US is concerned, he has been able to have a very positive visit, very good visit, notwithstanding the unpredictability of Mr. Trump. So I think we will also go ahead and try to normalize, stabilize. But of course, it is China which needs this normalization with India more than India needs that. Shreya.
Can I also then understand from you, Ambassador Sajjanhar, Donald Trump has time and again in the past few weeks reiterated the fact that he does not support the BRICS, that the BRICS has ended, that the BRICS grouping does not and should not dare to have and work towards any attempts towards de-dollarization. Now, for India, of course, we haven't been very vocally against de-dollarization, and we've said that we will stand by the dollar. But how far do you see that, the BRICS grouping countering Donald Trump and his claims, and him trying to stop the de-dollarization efforts, at least on the part of Russia and China?
You see, even as far as Russia and China are concerned, they know that this whole idea of de-dollarization is dead on arrival. It has no possibility of succeeding. I have been in earlier also in negotiations on this whole issue. The best that can happen is promoting trading in national currencies, not having a substitute, not having a replacement for dollar. Because, the question then would arise is, okay, if dollar goes, which currency comes and takes its place? Meaning, are we comfortable with the renminbi, the Chinese yuan? Not at all. We are not even comfortable making the payment for our imports of oil from Russia in Chinese currency. We will not do that. So, definitely as far as India, which is the 5th largest economy in the world, shortly going to become the 3rd largest economy in the world, we say that we are not in support of, the Chinese currency. Which other currency takes place? Is it the Russian ruble? Russia has a total GDP of $1.5, $1.6 trillion, which is about 1.5% of the global economy. So there is no other currency that can take the place of dollar. We are very happy with the dollar. We have told the Americans also in so many words. I think this is Mr. Trump's, certain level of disinformation. He sort of, comes into that. But definitely India is not in support of that. We'll really have to wait and see as to how Mr. Trump reacts to this trading in national currencies, because India has also engaged and entered into these agreements with about, I think, 18 countries or so, where we can have trading in national currencies. But we'll, of course, have to see what is the volume of these, trade that we have with those countries. United States, which is our largest trading partner, we have trade in dollars. China, which is our 2nd largest, we have trade in dollars. Also, the United Arab Emirates, 3rd largest. Petroleum, in any case, is in dollars. 4th largest, Saudi Arabia, also in dollars. So, we'll really have to wait and see as to what is the impact of this national currencies. The last point here I would say is that Russia and China have started trading in renminbi, and they have started trading in renminbi for a long time. At least 10 years ago. It's not a more recent phenomenon. But we'll really have to wait and see what Mr. Trump, how he looks at it and how he responds to this whole issue of trading in national currencies, because that means that we are not using dollars to that extent.
Right. Okay, we'll leave it there. Let's see how the India-China relationship moves forward. Ambassador Sajjanhar, this year we're also celebrating 75 years of diplomatic relationship with China. So hopefully we'll make wiser and stronger decisions for the two of us. Thank you very much for joining us at the moment and getting us your perspective on this crucial bilateral meeting that took place between India and China.
Thank you very much.
Moving on, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump continues to create ripples not just in America but in India as well. After his huge